Do you think he's pulling away because he lost interest? Maybe that's not it. Maybe he's trying to forget what you did, because the impact was greater than you realize. It's easy to think that if he hasn't texted, it's because he's moved on. But men don't always disappear because they're okay. Sometimes they disappear because they're confused, hurt, and quietly watching you, without you even noticing. You know what's the biggest illusion many women have? Thinking they need to be perfect to be unforgettable. But what leaves a mark on a man isn't perfection. It's what challenges his expectations, what breaks the story he created about you and about himself. I'm Ethan Blake, and today I'll show you what makes a man unable to let you go. And no, it's not tricks. It's something he feels, even if he doesn't know why. The truth is, the man who tries to forget you doesn't always succeed. Not because you were everything he dreamed of, but because you were something he never expected. You showed up when he thought he had control. You said no when everyone else said yes. You walked away calmly, while others begged for one more minute. He thought you'd come back, but you didn't, and that stuck. Like a mistake he doesn't know how to fix. Men don't handle silent regret well. They'd rather blame you than admit what they lost. And while you move on, he tries to erase you. But the more he tries, the more you show up in the little things. In someone's perfume on the street, in a movie quote, in that silence when no one texts him back. That's when the emotional prison begins. Not out of dependence, but because somehow you became a mirror. A mirror of what he misses, of what he failed to value, of what maybe he'll never find again. Some women are remembered for their body, others for the drama, but the one he can't forget is the one who becomes a reference, the one who made him rethink his own masculinity, who wasn't impressed by his car, his talk, or his status, who looked him in the eyes and saw the man, not the character. Have you noticed that when you give too much, he pulls away? But when you hold your own value, he comes back? It's not about playing games, it's about energy. He feels when you are whole, when you're not trying to prove anything. And that's when you become dangerous. Because you don't need him to feel chosen. That kind of woman disarms. She scares, and she becomes an addiction. He can go out with others, but they won't have the same gaze. They won't have the same silence, full of presence. They won't have that last sentence that kept echoing after you left. You don't need to chase him. His own mind will do it for you, because a man doesn't forget the woman who taught him something about himself. And if you think he doesn't feel anything, watch how hard he tries to look happy. A man doesn't fake disinterest when he's indifferent. He fakes it when he's trying to prove something to you. So don't be surprised if he comes back. But not because he changed, because you became too big to ignore. When a man realizes he lost something rare, it's not when you leave. It's when he realizes you're not coming back. While you're there, replying fast, explaining everything, trying to fix it, he still feels in control, even when he doesn't deserve it. But when you change your tone, when you respond calmly, effortlessly, when your absence becomes routine, that's when it hits. And then comes the comparison. He starts going out with others, looks for distraction, but none of them have your sweet strength. None of them know how to listen with that safe silence. That doesn't judge, but also doesn't submit. Because you were a rarity. And when rarity leaves, it becomes real absence. It becomes a measure. The way you folded his shirt, the touch that said, I'm here, but I'm not yours. The care without demand. Little things that didn't seem special, but now are irreplaceable. Men only understand value when they lose the privilege. And what hurts the most isn't losing you. It's realizing he lost the version of himself that only existed with you. You made him want to be more, to be better. Even without saying a word, he misses the lightness, the peace in your gaze, the way you knew what to say. And more importantly, what to keep silent. You were the woman he didn't need to figure out, and at the same time, never managed to control. That messes with his ego, but also with his heart. He starts feeling your absence in the details. In the song you used to listen to, in the clothes he wore the day he met you, in the archived message he can't delete, and doubt starts to hurt more than missing you. Did you forget already? Did someone see in you what he never could? A man panics, not when he realizes he misses you, but when he realizes you might be better off without him, because he imagined you waiting. He imagined you feeling the same. And when he sees you're no longer there, that you don't ask anymore, that you don't react to his provocations, the game changes. You become the memory that weighs, the story he can't fully tell, the page he rereads in silence, trying to figure out where he truly lost you, and then he realizes you weren't too much. You were intense. You weren't demanding. You were present. You weren't dramatic. You were clear. And all of that was far too rare to forget. You know what really challenges a man? Not games, but the piece that doesn't depend on him. He's used to women who bend, who change. They're toned to please, who wait, who give in easily. But when he meets a woman who knows herself, who knows what she wants and, more importantly, what she won't accept, he goes into crisis because she doesn't need to argue to stand her ground. She doesn't need to yell to be heard. She says little, and that's enough. She doesn't play. She lives at her own pace, and that pace exposes his anxiety. He thinks he has to conquer, impress, persuade, but she just observes, and the more he tries to provoke her, the less she reacts. She knows that sometimes silence is louder than any speech. She understands not every message deserves a reply, that not every doubt needs clarification, and that for him is intriguing because she doesn't run from connection. But she doesn't cling to crumbs of attention either. She knows if he wants to, he will come. If he doesn't, she moves on. This woman challenges the ego, not because she tries to be better than anyone, but because she simply is different. He realizes that with her, he can't repeat old patterns. He can't use the same tricks. He can't pretend to pull away to see if she chases because she doesn't chase. She takes a deep breath and closes the door gently. No shouting, no drama, no shrinking herself. And that, my dear, hurts more than any scream. Men know how to handle conflict. What they don't know how to handle is a woman who knows how to leave without losing her sweetness. A woman who doesn't need to convince, who knows that if he couldn't see her, someone else will. She doesn't threaten. She simply becomes unreachable. And then he feels the weight of the loss, not because she made a scene, but because she made an absence. He starts to remember the way she never asked for anything, but gave everything so genuinely, so purely. It was scary. Scary not to know how to give back. Scary not to be enough. She didn't ask for attention. She caused attention. She didn't ask for respect. She inspired respect. She didn't ask for love. She taught what love was, and that creates an internal tension. Because he realizes he's not dealing with just any woman. He's dealing with someone who forces him to evolve or walk away. And most walk away, not out of indifference, but out of fear. Because loving a whole woman requires emotional maturity. And maturity can't be bought. It only shows up when he realizes he lost something that made him want to be better. Not to impress her, but because she brought out the best in him. And then he starts missing. The woman who didn't play games, who told the truth even when it hurt, who said no with firmness, and a look that showed she still cared. She knew the difference between disappearing out of pride and stepping away out of self-respect. And that changes everything. She didn't vanish to punish. She withdrew to protect herself. And that kind of move doesn't stick to the ego. It sticks to the soul. Because he realizes he was respected until the very end, even when he didn't deserve it. And that is what weighs on him. Her lack of guilt, her presence of dignity, her silence that doesn't beg but teaches. That woman doesn't explain herself. She lets time reveal the value he failed to see. And when that time comes, he's far away. But the memory is more alive than ever. Because she never had to prove anything. She simply was whole. And that is unforgettable. Respect and desire are born in the same place. Admiration. And you know what makes a man admire you? It's not how much you like him. It's how much you show you like yourself. It may sound simple, but that's what changes everything. Men are used to women who give too quickly, who hand over everything, before he even proves he's worth it, who confuse connection with emotional dependence. But the woman he respects is different. She likes him. But she doesn't need him. She makes space, but never gives up herself. She shares her time, but never negotiates her boundaries. She gives, but only as long as he matches her with maturity. And that intrigues him, because he starts to realize that every gesture from her comes from choice, not from neediness, not from fear of losing, but from awareness. She's there, because she wants to be. And if needed, she leaves. And that's not pride. It's self-worth. This woman has something rare. Consistency. She doesn't change her tone based on his moods. She doesn't adapt to chaos. She invites him into her peace. She doesn't scream. She takes a stand. She doesn't beg. She communicates. And because of that, she becomes a different kind of presence. She doesn't compete with other women. She knows she's unique. And that inner certainty shows. In the way she walks into a room, in the steady gaze, in her calm yet firm posture. He feels it, even before he understands it. And a woman like that, he either aligns with her or drifts away. Because she demands without asking. She invites without forcing. She creates desire through respect. Men crave what they admire, and they admire what they can't fully control. It's not about being unreachable. It's about being deep. She has stories. She has principles. She has clarity. And all of that communicates. She knows when to stay quiet and when to say what needs to be said. She doesn't play to win. She stands her ground to protect her peace. And that creates tension. The good kind. She's the kind of woman he wants close. Not just for her beauty, but because, with her, he feels challenged to grow. She doesn't accept crumbs. But she doesn't have to say it all the time. She shows it. By the way she treats herself, and when she walks away, he feels it. Because the energy shifts, the space she occupied can't be filled by just anyone. And he starts remembering how she made him feel, not pressured but seen, not demanded from but inspired, not required to perform, but invited to be more. And that is rare. Much rarer than he'd like to admit. He realizes that with her, it was never about winning or losing. It was about growing together. And when he loses that, when he sees he didn't know how to hold onto it, respect turns into longing, and longing turns into desire. Desire to come back, desire to try again, desire to prove that he's learned. But sometimes, it's too late, because this woman doesn't stay where there's no mutual exchange. She loves deeply, but she also knows how to love herself enough to leave. And that is the greatest lesson she leaves behind. There comes a moment when he starts comparing you to every other woman. And no, it's not right after the end. At first, he tries to erase you, convinces himself it was for the best, goes out, distracts himself, meets new people, laughs loud, posts quotes, pretends he's moved on. But over time, something shifts. He starts noticing the contrast, the subtle difference between what's temporary and what was real. The new woman might be beautiful. She might laugh at his jokes, accept everything. But She doesn't have the same look in her eyes. She doesn't provoke the same reflections, doesn't challenge his ego with silence, doesn't bring that feeling of standing in front of something real. And that bothers him. He starts unconsciously looking for pieces of you in other women. The way you crossed your arms, the pause before you answered, the way you'd say, "I'm fine," when you weren't, but with dignity. And he realizes that it's not your physical presence that weighs the most. It's your emotional absence. You made him feel seen. And that is rare. It doesn't matter how many new messages he gets, how many dates he lines up, how many compliments he hears. Nothing fills the space you left. Because you weren't just presence, you were depth. And what he finds now is surface. Empty talk. Affection without true giving. A body without connection. And every new attempt at replacement just confirms one thing. You were one of a kind. Not because you were perfect, but because you were whole. You didn't try to please all the time. You knew how to say no with a smile. You challenged him to be better, not through pressure, but through example, and that stays. It stays when he hears a song. It stays when he sees an old message. It stays when, for a moment, he thinks about texting you, but doesn't. Because he knows. Maybe now you're already too far gone, and the comparison becomes inevitable. He tries to convince himself the new one is better, easier, lighter. But lightness without connection becomes emptiness. Ease without depth becomes boredom, and he feels it. He feels it in the look of another that doesn't read his soul. He feels it in the touch that holds no memory. He feels it in the kiss that doesn't stir his heart. And for the first time, he begins to understand that you weren't too much. You were intense. You weren't difficult. You had standards. And every woman after you becomes a reminder of what he had and lost. And the pain isn't just about you. It's about the man he was with you and the man he can't seem to be with anyone else, because with you, he saw himself better, more real, more complete. And now, he sees himself trying to fill a space that you left with silence. And that silence says more than 1,000 words. There's a moment when her silence becomes an irreplaceable presence. And it's not the silence that plays games, not the silence that pretends. It's the silence of someone who said it all. Who chose to stop insisting. Not out of weakness, but out of wisdom. That silence doesn't accuse. Doesn't demand, doesn't beg. It simply shows what she once tried to express with words, and then something shifts in him. In the beginning, he felt relief. Relief from not having to explain. Not because he felt pressured, but because he could live in peace. Then suddenly, he realizes her silence isn't absence. It's presence. In everything. Presence in the moment he got good news and thought of telling her, but couldn't. Presence in the empty seat beside him, where she used to sit. Presence in the laughter that doesn't feel complete, because there's no echo. That kind of woman stays, not physically, but in memories, in gestures, in his conscience. Because she didn't leave to hurt. She left to protect herself, and that is what unsettles him the most. He realizes she didn't leave out of anger. She left out of self-love, and that kind of departure weighs heavy, because it's dignified, it's mature, it's clean. She didn't scream, didn't get revenge, didn't beg. She simply stepped away, and now, in her silence, he hears everything. Everything he ignored, everything he minimized, everything he disrespected. Her silence became a mirror, and that mirror reflects the truth, the version of himself that didn't know how to care, that didn't know how to listen, that didn't value her when he had the chance. He tries to stay busy, focus on work, friends, distractions, but something keeps coming back. The feeling that he lost something. That won't come back because she wasn't noise. She was presence. Presence that calmed the chaos. Presence that gave direction. Presence that didn't demand to be felt, but was felt. And now, that absence has turned into longing with the weight of reality. He starts to remember the times she went silent, not because she had nothing to say, but because she had already said everything, because she understood there was no point anymore. And that kind of silence is final, not because she closed her heart, but because she decided to open space for someone who would listen, without needing her to repeat herself. She's not coming back, because she knows. If he couldn't see her worth when she was there, he doesn't deserve her return once she's gone, and that's what he feels, day after day. The weight of an absence that can't be reversed. The echo of a silence, louder than any scream, and all of it. Without her saying a single word, there's a kind of memory that holds a man, even when he tries to move on. It's that last image, the last conversation, the last thing she said to him, and no matter how much time passes, that stays. Because it wasn't just the end of a relationship, it was the end of a possibility. And he feels that every day, even if he never says it. Men don't usually share this with their friends. They don't say, "She left a mark." They don't admit, "I messed up." But they carry that memory, like a gentle ghost. A memory that doesn't scare, but keeps him from fully giving himself to someone else. He might even fall for another woman. He might even build something new. But that last image is still there. You with calm eyes saying you wouldn't insist anymore. You with a firm voice saying you still felt something, but respected yourself more. You walking away without a scene, without breaking anything, just leaving whole. That image doesn't fade because it's not just you. It's everything he could have been and wasn't. Everything he could have done and didn't. And deep down, he knows. He knows he was seen in a way no one else ever saw. He knows he was accepted, flaws and all. He knows he had something in his hands that most men never get. A woman who loved with courage and left with dignity, and now every new attempt at love runs into that memory. He tries to start over, but can't forget how you used to look at him. He tries to open his heart, but remembers how you made him feel, and that becomes a silent comparison. Unfair even, because no other woman is to blame, but none can reach the same place. Because the last memory he has of you is not weakness, it's strength, and that strength is what holds him. It's not about missing your touch. It's not about needing attention. It's about missing the peace you brought, even when saying goodbye. And then, he realizes, maybe you weren't just a love. Maybe you were the turning point, the break between the man he was and the man he could have become by your side. And even if he finds someone new, he'll always carry that doubt. Would she have loved me if I had matured earlier? That doubt becomes a scar, and that scar doesn't hurt every day. But it always returns on the quietest nights, on the days when everything seems fine, but something is missing, because you became a reference. You became the story he doesn't tell, but relives in silence. There comes a time when you need to stop asking what he feels and start remembering what you deserve. Because yes, he may miss you. He may regret it. He may even try to come back. But the real question is, do you still want someone who only saw your worth after losing you? You weren't chosen by accident. He knew your value. He just didn't know how to hold on to it. And this isn't about him anymore. It's about you. Choosing not to cling to someone who only recognizes gold after it's lost its shine. Your energy is yours. Your peace is sacred. Your worth doesn't depend on his memory. Subscribe to the channel. Let's move forward.